VATV, Vietnamese American Arizona Television. A Fragile Flower promises a captivating experience for movie lovers, offering a poignant reflection on fame, love, and the human spirits set against the backdrop of Vietnamese culture and music.
Bí ẩn nào đó trong giọng hát của cô gái này lạ lắm. Giọng cô ta không thể nhầm lẫn với bất cứ giọng một ai khác. Ngoài phố mùa đông, đôi môi em là đốm lửa hồng.
Ủa, cô gái này là ai vậy?
Cô ấy tên là Thảo.
Cho ta nương nhờ lúc thở than. Để làm được phim ca nhạc, em phải đánh đổi điều gì đấy? Cần đến chăng để chút vơi.
Nếu Thảo có tâm sự cần nói, tôi sẵn sàng nghe đi.
Thảo cứ coi tôi như là người tình của Thảo.
Em yêu chị, em mong được sống bên chị.
Tôi không tiếc tiền bảo trợ tất cả những chương trình lớn nhỏ cho cô ấy. Rốt cuộc tôi nhận lại được cái gì?
Tất cả những gì các tôi gây ra chưa đủ hay sao?
Đừng bao giờ tới đây nữa. Tôi nhắc ông đập cuối, ông đừng biến thành Thảo, nàng thơ của tôi, trở thành xấu xí và tầm thường như vậy.
Anh có thể yên tâm, vì nàng thơ của anh đã tìm được người đàn ông có thể lo cho cô ấy tất cả mọi thứ.
Mọi quyết định của em toàn đúng, cái đó mới là vấn đề đó.
Đừng có to tiếng với em. Chúng ta đều là những kẻ đáng thương trong tình yêu. Em sẽ không cho ai cướp đi tất cả những gì thuộc về em. Đừng bao giờ để con tim mình bị tổn thương.
Nói em vào anh chiếc hôn nồng. Nói em vào anh chiếc hôn nồng.
A Fragile Flower premiered in Arizona on March 28, 2024 at Regal Gilbert. For sponsor and ticket, please contact Linv VAATV 480-289-9816. Hello and welcome to VAATV Real Estate Talk Show with Scott Barlow and Lynn V. Investing can be tricky, especially for beginners. However, with the right knowledge and understanding, you can achieve success in your investment. Our talk show is designed to bring out great topic for investor like you. We hope you enjoy the show and welcome to submit any feedback during and after the show. Hello everyone, welcome back to VATV Real Estate Show with Mr. Scott Barlow from SF Fuller Real Estate Investment.
Hi.
Hello,
Scott. How are you this evening?
Yes, very good. So how's the weather out there?
Yeah, it's a beautiful day. We're getting Arizona weather again, and I think it's supposed to be sunny and very pleasant again tomorrow. So
kind of chilly at night, right? Still,
it cools down at night, which is nice too.
Yeah, right. So, everyone, continue. We're talking about some of the investment ideal from last week. And today, what are you going to focus on?
What we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to talk about single-family homes. Last week, we talked about multifamily homes, kind of looked at apartments. We did some calculations so that you can analyze a property. A lot of the same types of things that we did as far as analyzing those apartments, we can simplify when we go to a single-family home because now we're only talking about one lease, one tenant.
One lease, one tenant. That's going to be more simple, right?
One hand, it's simple, but on the other hand, there's some other things to it that we have to pay attention to because it is a single-family home. And because it's a single-family home as opposed to an apartment, there are some other opportunities that arise out of that.
Okay. So, the single family, they can purchase, live in there, and then rent it later.
That's correct.
Right? Or if they already have a house, then they can buy the single family and rent it out. So how about the interest rate for the non-vacant and the vacant?
Well, the interest rates,
non-owner occupied and owner occupied.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are some different rates out there.
Yeah.
We'll get into that a little bit later because we're also going to touch on inflation.
Okay. Yes.
Inflation, of course, is one of those things that's driving a lot of the news of lately. So we'll talk about that and how it affects the mortgage rates.
Right. Yes. So you everyone, when we make a purchase, of course we're talking about location, right? Doesn't matter it's a rental or it's a place we live.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And so when we're looking for a good single family home, in many cases we're starting off with a home that we may have lived in. You may start off with purchasing a home, and that's where your family grows up in.
Right.
You get to the point where now the
buy
kids
a big mansion.
You need a bigger house.
Yes.
So you move out. You move up.
Move up. Yeah.
And so that home is still there, but you still have the ability to turn around and put it out for rent.
Right, and earn some they don't have to sell it every time and buy a new one, right?
That is correct. You can hold on to it
because if the market rate is not that good.
Exactly right. And in case in point, just a few years ago, folks were buying homes and they were in the 3% range. Now, if they want to buy a new home, you're going to be much higher. Typically high 6s, low 7s.
Wow.
But if you have a home and it's too small for your family, you've moved up, you don't necessarily have to sell it. You still have a favorable mortgage rate on that home.
Right.
Why not turn around and rent it out?
Exactly.
Rents have gone up significantly over the last few years.
Right.
And there is an opportunity to rent those homes and make a profit. Remember, when it comes to single family homes, the purchase price that you paid, you're paying it down in several different ways.
Right.
Number one, as you paid the mortgage over the years, that has reduced the amount that you owe on the property.
Yes. Like a principal down, right?
Exactly. You've reduced the principal. If you have a tenant move in there, that tenant will continue to pay and you can make enough to pay your mortgage and you continue to pay it down. Over time, real estate here in Arizona continues to appreciate. So say on a $100,000 house, if you had it for 10 years and average 4% appreciation per year, it doesn't take a whole lot of time to start figuring out you're making money on that house. So you're making additional money on the value of the house when you finally do decide to sell it. But at the same token, you've got a tenant in there and they're paying your principal down. So your profits start increasing. Increasing because it's appreciating and increasing because the debt that you own on is reducing.
Right. Because I know at least for us, we really don't want to own anything. If we have a house and we sell, we move by the next one, then we have to borrow another loan, right? So usually people mind in there that was thinking like, okay, why they have to keep two loans for risky? What if they don't have enough money to pay? Then it's going to be real bad. And so the way that you mentioned there, that the property can put up for rent and then it's going to make up whatever that is and pay
That's
back.
Correct. Think about it this way, though. One of the advantages, and we talked about this early about an advantage of real estate is that you can leverage it.
Yes.
So suppose that you've got a property, you've already been paying on it for a number of years. You bought it at a much lower price than what the market is now. And then you've already had that, it's on paper because you haven't cashed it out yet, but you've reduced what your debt is on that property and you've increased through appreciation. So now you've got this difference between the two of them is money that you may be able to leverage. In other words, where you can go back to a lender and you can borrow against what's in there.
Right.
and use that as your down payment to get the next property. That's called leveraging, and it's certainly a principle that applies to real estate.
They can always seek help from their CPA, right?
Yes.
I mean, for additional, what if, like, I have a funny story my friends share with me that they really don't want to own debt, right? So they pay off everything. They pop real estate and everything. But then the income they're making, they still have to pay tax.
Of course.
But they have nothing to claim against.
Exactly
and so
right.
they ended up paying more money. And they was, oops, I forgot. I pay off all my debt. The funny thing is, like, here in America, a little debt is okay. You own it so that you can claim something if you still have income.
Well,
right?
think of debt. Debt is something we all want to eliminate. But when you borrow and you have a mortgage, the interest that you're paying is deductible.
Right.
So as you were saying, you had somebody that had income.
Yes.
That interest that they would have had on their own home would have been deductible.
Right. Otherwise, they have to pay it anyway. Yeah.
So it's one of those incentives where the government is encouraging ownership of real estate, and all the more reason, use that like I said, that leveraging effect to go ahead and purchase a second home, maintaining the first home because you've already got cash flow with a tenant in there, but use that leveraging effect to purchase a second home.
Yeah. Last week you gave out the calculation and the number. People found it really helpful for them to kind of know exactly the number. Even that one can apply to whatever the investment that is.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And so what we talked about last week, we used an example of a duplex.
Yes.
And so this week, we can simplify it. We don't even have to have it as a duplex.
Right.
We can just go to a single family home, but the principle is exactly the same. What you need to do is you need to find out what is your rental income. That's your first one. Multiply it by 12. That gives you your annual gross scheduled income. If you have any other, then you start subtracting your expenses from it.
Right.
That once you have all of your expenses, and it includes the taxes, if you're paying electricity, trash pickup, maintenance on the home. Generally speaking, if you have a tenant and they're in a single family home, they're generally paying for everything except perhaps the home insurance and the taxes.
Yeah.
So those two, as well as your mortgage, you would be paying for. But as far as all the other utilities and those types of things, you want your tenant to pick up as many of those.
Yeah.
Once you get to that point, you subtract out whatever expenses that you have from your gross scheduled income. That gives you your net operating income. Same principles that we were talking about before, where the relationship between net operating income and purchase price will result, so that you can figure out the cap rate, which is net operating income divided by purchase price, or you can figure out gross monthly or gross rents receivable, and that can also be figured out by dividing the purchase price by the net operating income. So that once you have those numbers, you can actually go ahead and analyze that property and see if it's a worthwhile investment.
Right.
The best scenario you have is if you already have a home, and we talked about it, the possibility that you may have outgrown it. Maybe you started off. Maybe you started off with one child when you moved into that home, and now you've got 2 or 3, and you need a bigger home. But you're in a position where, because of what you paid for it, maybe it wasn't that expensive. Maybe you bought it a few years ago. Maybe you've got a great interest rate on it. Take advantage of that, because now you can come back and you can take a loan against that equity. So you can go to a lender, and because you've got it, you can leverage it and take that next loan, not against out of your pocket, but take that loan and use that equity as your down payment.
Yeah, and of course, to do that and be able to do that is like you gotta make a good choice to find a house at the right location where everybody wanted to rent or wanted to live there, right?
Exactly right. And one of the things is, if you're selecting a home for where you're gonna have your family, especially if you're gonna start bringing up children, you're gonna look for an area that's safe, that's gonna have good schools, have easy access to sports, activities, those types of things. So it makes it far easier for the next folks to come in, and those types of things that were very desirable for you are going to be desirable for your tenant.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because like that's we can drop out the worries of like cannot get money back from that house when they move out. You know, they want to look for like if whoever want to rent a place, they have the same thinking. Like they want to build up a family, and that gotta be a good place.
Yes, absolutely. And if it's been a home that you've been in, you've probably taken pretty good care of it. So it makes it easier. There's less deferred maintenance, and it makes it more appealing to bring in a tenant. Long-term wise, if you want to have long-term tenants, have a single-family home, have something that is desirable and has a great location.
And one thing that I think you mentioned it, and maybe I remind again that people will worry that the house will be destroyed when they rent it out. So the best is like you can schedule like inspection every like year or something, right?
Yes.
To kind of like go over with the tenant that and broken or something for the place in there, and then make correction or whatever.
Exactly right. And as we spoke about, one of the things that makes or breaks it for you as a landlord is the selection of your tenants. So always start off with an application and screen your tenants. Do a credit check, do a rental history check. You don't want to have a tenant that's got a history of being evicted.
Right.
You want a tenant that has a great history of their previous rentals. Secondly, you want to make sure that they've got a good credit report. In other words, that they're not overcome with debts, and that you can go ahead and know that this is someone that's solid and responsible. And then the next thing is, of course, is look at what type of situation they're in.
Right.
You have to follow fair housing laws, but make sure that you're not just putting people in there. And herein lies a kind of a caveat to that. Some of the cities here in the valley, they already have ordinances in place that you cannot have more than 3 unrelated people renting a home.
Oh, okay. Depend on the size of the home, right?
No, it's 3 unrelated people. And the idea being that they don't want to turn it into just kind of a flop house type of situation. And typically, Tempe is one of them where they do something along those lines. So if you got a 3-bedroom home, you can have 3 unrelated people renting it. I've seen situations where a young married couple may be in, and then there may be somebody else. Right. So at least that way there's a little better of a relationship. The biggest thing you want to avoid is overtaxing the home. A maximum of 2 people per bedroom. Because you think about wear and tear. About carpeting. You know, you've every set of steps over carpeting wears it out. If you've got
more traffic.
Exactly right. Yes. If you have 2 people living there, the same thing. Your water fixtures, all of your items receive additional use over time. So it's that additional burden of having more people in that space, using that space, it wears out faster. So like I said, you want to avoid having more than 2 people per bedroom.
Yeah, that's great. That's I mean, like ideally like that, but if they didn't let us know, and you know they live more than 2.
Well, that goes back to what I was saying. That from the onset of when you bring someone in as a tenant, what you want to do is you want to have a good lease, and in your application and in the lease, you want to know who the people are that are moving there.
Yes. So to do that, then we can avoid a lot of problems, right?
Exactly right.
Right.
And the last thing you want to do is start having people appearing there that you never did a credit check on.
Right.
You didn't do any background checks. So you want to make sure that you've got good folks who are living there.
Yeah. Because if you are firm and straight to the point where you, if not, if you find out that they go against that, then number one, they have to move out or they have to pay for the damages.
And that's
right?
exactly right. And then what you were talking about earlier, as a landlord, and this is under state law, under the Arizona Landlord Tenant Act, as the landlord, you're allowed to go in and inspect the property. If you think something's going wrong, you can go in and take a look at the interior of the property. The step that you have to go through is you have to give them
a notice.
Written notice,
right?
At least 2 days in advance.
2 days in advance, 48 hours.
48 hours.
Right.
But then once that's done, you can go in there, and if they deny you entry, you can start taking action against them.
Yes.
But most tenants, they understand that they have an obligation to allow you to come in. And certainly if you have a emergency situation where, let's say you've got a broken water line that's dripping or causing damage inside the property, you want to get in there sooner. So that 48 hours doesn't count for that. But
so let's say if they ignore our request and they're not home, and usually when we rent it out, we have a key, right?
Yes.
Then are we allowed to get in there if they're not home?
You can.
Because we already sent a notice.
Yep. And in fact, in some of the notices, they will tell you that, that if you prefer that they be there, but you can,
then
you can
enter in.
Yep.
Yeah. So the notice
preferably you want to stay on your tenant's good side.
Yes.
So you can try to get them to allow you to come in at a good time for them.
Right. That's true. Where they know what's going on. And if we caught something, at least they're there to answer the question for us.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Because we're just afraid of oh, okay, we'll take care of it. Okay, we'll do it. And never happens.
Well, and that's the other thing too. If you go in and there's a problem, give them a remediation.
A letter too.
Exactly. To outline what the problem is. Maybe they've got somebody in there that's been staying there a month and they shouldn't be there. So now you have to give them notice that person's not on the lease. They have to leave.
Yes.
And then you give them so many days, and if you make a appointment to come back and verify it. If they're still there, then you can start eviction proceedings.
The funny things that I will see, we never want to be a hard individual, right? But when we are so easy to any circumstances or easy to people, and then they might take advantage of that.
Exactly right.
Sometimes you thought easy, so people will appreciate it. I don't think so. Don't you think?
No,
they will go again. That's why you have to be firm to the point. Yes, you're not allowed that, and they have to stick with it, right?
I agree with that 100%. And you probably heard me say before that when you're renting property, you need to treat it like a business. You can be kind to people, but it's still a business, and they are your customer, so they still need to pay. They need to be proper inside.
Yes. And
you need to provide the service that you agreed to, which it doesn't mean that they get to take advantage of you.
Yeah, that's true. If you say, seems not care, or it's okay, we could just do it, and we're not going to get any punishment.
Well, I can tell you, for example, I had a property, and one of the tenants there, it had a septic field instead of sewer. It had septic. And there were lines that came out to the septic tank, and it was an area where you shouldn't be parking on there because the weight of the cars can cause those lines to break.
Right.
And sure enough, that's what happened. Those lines broke.
Wow.
So I wasn't the owner; I was the manager for it.
Wow.
But we did have to go to one of the tenants, and we warned them repeatedly: get your car out of that area. You can't park. And sure enough, over time, those lines were broken, and the owner ended up having to pay to have those lines replaced.
Oh, wow.
The owner didn't opt to go after that tenant for the cost of the repairs, but he certainly could have. And that tenant probably should have been evicted after he was warned repeatedly.
Right. But those area aren't are they gonna we have to put some note or something to avoid that area from parking.
Exactly right.
You know?
Yep. You put that in the lease.
Yeah.
And then the other thing,
visually.
yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the other thing too is you tell them, this is your designated parking spot. You cannot park anywhere else on the property.
Right. Yeah. Always a problem with the parking. Yeah. Yep. For the rental.
And that was sort of a unique situation.
Yes.
In that the lines came out where they did, but like I said, the tenant was warned not to park there. Yeah. And the damage did occur. It was predictable.
Yeah. They can say, no, I didn't. No, you know, they were like that.
They were informed.
Hidden game. And let's say if they have if they rent the property, right? They have camera, surveillance camera. Is that a good idea?
For the owner?
For the owner.
Well,
to check outside only, not
to check outside only.
Yeah.
If you the last thing you would do is have as the owner, as the landlord.
Yeah, landlord.
The last thing you want to do is have a camera on the inside. And you need to be very careful, even on the outside. Yeah. Perhaps on the street view, because the street side of it is considered the public face of that home.
Oh, okay.
Anybody driving down the street can look at the house and see what's going on. The backyard, because it may be fenced or have a block wall around it, that affords a degree of privacy. So you probably do not want to have a camera back there.
No backyard.
In the backyard.
Yeah.
Without if the tenant is wanting it, the tenant can put one in where they can monitor themselves.
Yeah. Because I was thinking, of course, we don't want to invade their privacy for the inside. I mean, we only want to look at the area from the parking, from the outside if something happens. Yes. So, that's the ideal, but not like all the way surrounding the house or inside.
No, right? No, not at all.
You don't want to do that because more responsibility. If something, they will ask you to provide the footage and everything.
Well, not just provide you footage, but your tenants, sneeze.
Oh, okay.
Your tenants have a right to privacy. They have a right to quiet, and it's called quiet enjoyment of the
place. Yeah.
And as soon as you start putting in cameras, it's almost like you're spying on them. You're keeping tabs. That's illegal. You can't do that.
Right. That's true. So because let's say the home that because you say like they live in there and then they move out and they use that for renting. And that already has a camera in there. Mm-hmm. So now they have to take them all off. If
turn them off, or if it's a system that can be turned over to the tenant, so that the tenant
can do that,
can monitor it themselves. That actually becomes another rental.
Yeah, it's even a great access for them. Yeah, yes. They can say, "Oh, I got more security."
Yes,
for
but as a landlord, you do not want to do anything that interferes with the privacy. With the privacy,
yeah. Okay. Yeah. So then, let's say if you said like would the single family good if they purchase the single family, they don't have to worry much. You say just one tenant, one contract, and what is the pro and con that you said?
Well, we've talked about it with a single family home.
Yeah.
You have one lease.
One lease.
You may have a couple of unrelated people on there, but it's one lease. And so the advantage is that lease is going to be higher than it's going to be for an apartment.
Okay.
But the disadvantage is if that tenant moves out, say it's a family or just an individual or a couple of roommates.
Yeah.
If they move out, that's 100% vacancy during that time period.
Right.
Whereas if you have a duplex, and you've got two apartments, and one of the tenants moves out, you've got a 50% vacancy. And so carried it on in scale to three plexes, someone moves out, now you've got a 33% vacancy. Or in a fourplex, you've got a 25% vacancy if someone moves out. Each one of those has its advantages and disadvantages.
And more and less, like more money and less. Because in a single family house, let's say they have 5 bedrooms, they can, if they want, they cannot rent like the whole 5 bedroom, then they can rent one by one, like you said. Or you said, but only allow 3 maximum.
Several of the cities say a maximum of 3 unrelated people.
Like share a room. Let's share.
So in those instances, it becomes important for you to find out what the city ordinances are.
Yeah.
Some cities, it's not a big deal. Other cities, it is. While I'm on the topic of city ordinances.
Where do they look at? You said on the website?
You can go to their websites, and it's under the, they will have rules on there. Look up the rental housing for each city. Each of the cities has its own rate of sales tax.
Yeah.
Some have none. Some are up in the
a rental tax.
A rental tax.
Yeah.
In other words, say you pay $1,000 a month for your rent, and some cities will have a rental rate of 2%.
And so this is when he mentioned that, like I think a lot of people, if they don't know, you know, like they live in their home and then now they move to another home and they rent it out. But they don't realize that they have to make an application to pay for the rental tax.
Yes.
Every month, right?
There's several steps that they need to go through. So if they're going to rent that home out, they need to inform the assessor's office that it is now a rental property and who is the responsible party. If it's the original homeowner, they'll still be the responsible party. You also need to, if you're going to rent it out, and some of the cities will require a business license. So you'll have to make application for that, and you will have to collect sales tax on your rent.
Right.
Not in every city, but some of the cities. So you need to take a look at each one of them. The last thing I want to talk about real quick, as far as city regulations is, and it's become much, much more important here the last few years. That's Airbnbs or the periodic rentals, where you can rent the house out to individuals for a week or 2 weeks. I know last year we had the Super Bowl here in Arizona.
Yes.
And there were a significant number of homeowners who rented their homes out for a short period of time.
Yeah, right.
Some of the cities do not allow short-term rentals. Some of the HOAs do not allow short-term rentals. Some of the HOAs, it's okay to have a tenant, but that tenant may have to be on a lease that is 6 months or a year. And you may need to give a copy of that lease to the HOA.
I see.
The reason being, the HOA may want to know in the event of an emergency, or there's weeds, or somebody's parking on the lawn, or something like that.
Right.
They want to know who the individuals are, so that they can contact them and get it taken care of. But like I said, probably the biggest one that's become kind of a burden on some homeowners is they want to purchase a home in a subdivision and then use it as an Airbnb. And if it's not something that's allowed under the city, you can be really badly disappointed, because that business model just goes out the window.
Yeah, and then if they keep doing it, then they got caught, then they have to pay a huge penalty for it, right?
Yes.
So this is important, because nobody have a thought of doing that Airbnb, because at first when they bought the house, they're just thinking of buying a house. But now you bring up a very good point that even though whatever the case, when you buy a single family, you have to always look at that criteria, right? Yes. So that it can be avoid the possibility you can't do something, that you can make some profit.
Additionally, when you make the application to the assessor's office, that'll cue the assessor that it's no longer an owner-occupied property. It's a rental property. And so it's taxed and coded out a little bit differently. One of the reasons that they code it out differently is because they want to know how many rental homes are in the valley, in Maricopa County.
Right. Wow. Yeah. As many things that we need to know. For myself, I didn't even think about that. I don't think about go and check the ordinance and all that things. And I learned with California, they also have like a rent control area that you cannot rent so much and whatever. But in Arizona, it's good. Good thing they don't have that yet.
Arizona does not have rent control as of yet.
As long as your house is nice, beautiful, and okay with the price, you can raise whatever you want.
Right. The one thing I might add that while you've got a tenant in there, as soon as your tenant is in there and they want to go change the garbage, water, and sewer costs, they probably are going to be required to show a copy of the lease.
Okay. Yes.
So that'll cue the city, who in turn is going to go, all right, well, we're going to want we want our money from the sales tax on that lease.
Oh,
So
yeah.
those steps will need to be taken care of.
Yeah, apply for the transaction, something they call transaction rules.
Transaction privilege tax.
Privilege tax, yeah. So that one in Arizona, I just learned from that, yeah.
It's usually, I've seen them as low as 1.5% and as high as 2.2%.
2%, yeah, in Mesa. Yeah.
But if you write your lease properly, that should be an expense that the tenant
For
pays.
the tenant to
You
pay.
have to collect it. You have to send it into the city. I mean, into the state actually collects it and then redistributes it back to the cities. But you as the landlord are required to collect that.
Yeah, because like before we don't know, and then when we put like amount of monthly grant, then it just like flat out, just like 1,000 or 1,500. That's it. But it's required if it save a lot. Compare, like we talk about year to year, if it's $40 extra that you have to cough out and pay for.
Correct.
So better like make the tenant aware of that, and tenant gonna pay for.
Yes. The one thing about single family homes, we talked about using equity that you had when you move out from one that's existing. If you're going to buy one the first time around, usually a single family home is less expensive than a multifamily property. And so that the threshold to get into the property is a little bit easier.
Easier, right, yeah.
And we've talked in the past about what the different loan products that are available out there.
Yes.
So I'm gonna kind of go into just a few of them.
All right.
The typical one that everybody's used to is a 30-year fix, and typically it's a conventional. And with conventional rates, we're looking at anywhere from 7.4% to 7.9% on a refinance.
Wow, right now.
So it is high.
Yeah.
But if you have a situation where you can get someone in and the rent that they have coming in, currently average rent on a single family home is around $2,250 a month. So that's a pretty significant amount to rent a home.
Yes.
In addition to that, you've got the FHA 30-year fixed rate. And what I might add is some of these are not necessarily a loan that you can do if you're buying one, but if you have an existing, for example, the 30-year fixed one is, of course, that can also be an investor's. But if you have an FHA or a VA loan, and you've lived there for 2 years, you can go ahead and you can put a tenant in there. That's not going to affect things. But as far as interest rates are concerned, they're going to remain high. I would expect at least well into the summer. The biggest thing is, and we'll talk a little bit about inflation here quickly, but the Fed is up against the wall. They want to reduce inflation to 2%. It has come down significantly, and what they've done is rather than keep going up and up and up with the interest rate, they've held it steady. But I don't think that we're going to see it come down anytime soon. They've revised the inflation rates, but it's staying persistently high. And if you have any doubts about it, look at the things that you spend money on daily. What's the cost of your food? It's gone up, and it certainly hasn't come down.
Nope.
The cost of gasoline has gone up.
Has gone.
The cost of clothing, the things that we buy every day, those prices have continued to stay persistently high.
Yeah.
And so the inflation rate, particularly on those personal consumption items, is a thing that they're looking at. And until that comes down, we're going to see them kind of holding firm.
Yes.
Or, hopefully it doesn't go up to the point where the Fed now starts to think they need to raise interest rates again.
Right.
But if things hold the way that they have been, and it has been kind of trickling down, it's not down to the 2% range yet. But once they get it down to 2%, we may see some of these interest rates fall. I know as in looking through my list here, we talked about the 30-year fixed, currently at 7.42%. The FAA 30-year fix at 7.49. The VA 30-year fix at 7.2. Jumbo, which is the very, very large homes.
So more than how much?
Typically above 750,000.
Oh, okay.
But those are at 6.95%. For folks who like a shorter period of time, a 20-year fix is at 7.3, and a 15-year fixed, though mind you, those are conventional, they're at about 6.77%. Usually, the shorter the term, the rates are a little bit lower, a little bit more favorable, but sometimes people, just because of an affordability standpoint, they need that 30-year time frame to amortize out the loan.
So you say like the longer term of the mortgage, the better interest rate gonna be?
The higher interest rate.
The higher interest rate?
Yes.
Oh, let's say 30-year fix will be higher than 15-year fix.
Exactly.
Right.
And here,
I see.
The 30-year, once again, 30-year fix is at 7.42. The 15-year fix is at 6.77.
So the 15-year fix is a better rate, a little bit better rate than the 30-year fix.
Exactly right. Yes.
So let's say, I think like with the 15-year fix, they will pay off the loan quicker, right?
15 years.
Yeah, I mean 15-year fix. Yeah.
Yes.
So will be quicker, but the monthly they have to pay more money compared to the 30-year fix.
You're right. But the monthly payment percentage-wise,
even though the interest rate is higher, but their payment is lower for the 30-year because they spread out to 30 years. Yeah.
On the 30-year fixed, a larger portion of that payment is interest.
Yes.
On a 15-year fix, a larger portion of that payment is on principal.
Principal, right. Okay. Yeah. So I think 30-year fix always give a safe side because it's always have the clause that no prepayment penalty, right? So whatever you have money earlier, you pay it off, then you will be good.
And I know that folks over the years, I've seen it, I've done it myself where kind of a philosophy, if you can afford it, make an extra payment a year. So instead of 12 payments, make 13 payments. 13
payments, yeah. So that it can shorten like about 7 to 10 years, right?
Correct.
Of the mortgage to pay off. Yeah, it's a good idea because sometimes you forgot, you forgot about that payment and just one extra payment per year.
Right.
Instead of 12 payment, now it's 13 payment.
If you're considering purchasing a single family home right now, a lot of folks are suggesting, go ahead and purchase the home because even when interest rates come down, it's unlikely that the price of the home is going to come down.
Right. Yeah.
In fact, it may create a buying frenzy because there will be a lot of folks who come back into the market.
Yeah.
And now they can afford to buy more home than what they could with these higher interest rates.
Yeah. You rather get the home than get the cheaper interest rate because the home will have more value and inflation and maybe many more.
The thing that you can do is buy the home now. In some cases, some of the loan programs out there with the 2-1 buy downs where some of the rate is reduced for a period of time.
Yeah.
Go through one of those loan programs, evaluate it, get somebody that can give you good advice to take a look at it. It may be to your advantage to go ahead and make that purchase now, hold the home, make those payments, and then in 9 months, a year from now, when interest rates have fallen, do a refinance on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I know like many people afraid of the refinancing. The reason why is maybe they make income this year, but next year maybe they've been laid off or they have no income.
Well, if you've got a mortgage already, you still face that same risk.
Yeah. So
better to reduce it through refinancing.
Right.
And at that point,
And of course, when you find the whoever that do your refinancing, because I know sometimes when they say it's gonna save money, but let's say you enter a 30-year loans and then you pay like about 10 years, and then you refinance it. Now your term gonna go back out to 30 years.
Well,
right?
You know what?
Yeah. You don't want to do that.
You may have reduced. Remember, you may have reduced your debt on there to such a point that it might be worthwhile to look at a 15-year.
Right. Yeah. I think. Yeah. Because if they spread it out, and then also because the loan closing costs, all that have to add up to back to the loan. So when they save a little bit money, but they still have a longer term of the year to pay off. So I think if they consider refinancing it and allow them then to cut short the term, it's better.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Those are very interesting facts.
So at each stage, you need to pay attention to what your finances are. That's why it always works best to talk to a regular loan professional that can give you pros and cons for each program,
right? As
well as talk to your tax professional to make sure that
your situation.
Everybody's situation is going to be different.
Yeah.
But I know from my own situation, it's always great to have that interest rate deduction.
Yeah.
To help reduce how much you have to pay for taxes.
Because a lot of people, if you guys have no income, you don't need deduction, right? Then everything should pay off, right? But if you still have income, you still have to file tax return. Of course, if you don't have expenses, you still have to pay back the money to get the government.
You're going to have to pay taxes, correct?
Yeah. So all those are the information there. And then how about you're going to talk to them about the insurance, home insurance?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. So this past year or so, what we've actually seen, and you may have experienced it on your own home or with your insurance for your vehicles, or if you're renting your renter's insurance, the insurance industry has had kind of a hard way to go of it. And when I say that, what I mean is the cost of insurance has gone up because of losses they've had from storms, wildfires, all kinds of different things.
Right.
So many of the insurance companies have upped their rates significantly, and it's going to remain high this year. It's to your advantage to talk to an insurance broker that maybe carries several different insurance companies, so that you can compare policies and compare your rates. One of the things I know in California is that there were some changes, and some of the insurance companies are no longer
offer home insurance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you really need to pay attention to it. Insurance is just one of those things. You got to have it. If you have a mortgage, you're going to have it.
Right. Because people might tend to forget, like once a year they pay, and then the year came by so quick, and they just thinking, they miss it. And we get a good agent to remind them, that great. If not, then when they pay their taxes, they go, where's my insurance? And, it had never been paid. So
the insurance can definitely save you a lot of money when you have an incident.
Right.
I know from my standpoint, I had a rental property, and we had a microburst.
Yeah.
The roof was damaged.
Yeah.
And I went through my insurance company. I used one of the roofing companies that they had, and got a brand new roof put on. And of course, it was guaranteed. So when I did sell the house, it transferred to the new owner.
But after you done the claim, is the premium went up the following year?
No.
Yeah, because it's happened to one of the friend I know that she claimed very tiny. That's why she say never claim anything tiny, because a little bit of water heater was leaked out, and the water was leaked to cause corrosion, like ugly wall right around that area. And then she called the homeowner insurance, and those are really typically very less than 5,000. It's very low. But ended up now she have to pay so high on the premium versus before.
I think that probably the increase in premium is just because of some of the things that we spoke about.
So just coincidence.
Yep. But you do need to kind of take a look at what the incident is. That's where you might be better served having a home warranty. And if you have a water heater leak, call your home warranty company and have them come out and replace the water.
The home warranty, I think they're gonna just cover for that, but I don't think they cover for the surrounding. Like the damages of the wall and all that. They would just pay for the water heater. Yeah, before, like even myself, I bought the homeowner insurance. I mean the home warranty, But when the leaking, I never thought about it. I forgot about it. And then I have somebody come in and replace the whole new water heater. And then I found out, oops, I paid the home warranty and they cover. Why didn't I think about it?
Right.
Yeah. So those are, we have to pay attention to that one too. And thinking is helpful. It's not like, and then you have to pick the right home warranty though. Yes. Because if the home warranty company that they will collect very cheap rate, then when things occur, they're not going to pay. They will find reason to fight against it.
Exactly.
They don't pay. Yeah.
So make sure you do your research. Make sure you check to see what their reputation is. Some of the home warranty companies, they do not have a lot of tradespeople. Yeah. The biggest one is, what do you do in the middle of the summer when your air conditioning goes out? Yeah. And you might be, if you've got a home warranty company that does not have a lot of connections with trades companies, you may be 3-4 days before you get someone out there to fix your.
They're very cheap. They offer very cheap, like 3-year, 4-year versus like very cheaper than the 1 year that you guys pay with a good company. Yeah. But get it. So whatever the money that you pay, find it useful.
The way I look at a home warranty is this: if you're in a home, you're going to have a certain amount of maintenance,
right?
And that home warranty is an insurance policy for the maintenance. In other words, you may have a faucet that has a leak underneath it.
Yes.
You may have the water heater that has a leak under it.
Right.
You may have an incident where your washer, your dryer, they're covered and they've gone out. And I can tell you from experience, I've carried home warranties on my rental properties as well as my own home. And I've had things like dishwashers replaced, washer and dryers replaced, hot water heaters replaced. I've had showers that developed leaks and had those repaired. All of those different types of things, they cost, and you're offsetting some of those costs with the home warranty.
Even just only with the AC, with the air conditioner, that's already safe
exactly.
a lot. Yeah.
On the last house that I had, there were 2 big air conditioning units on it.
Yeah.
And there was one of the units every 2 years, just as regular as clockwork, in the beginning of the year when it started to get hot, the capacitor would go out. And the capacitor they had was a device about this big.
Yeah.
And my cost to replace that capacitor was $300 for the capacitor.
Yeah.
Plus the labor. But because I had the home warranty, it was a $69 service fee.
Wow. Let me share with you the funny story. When we're thinking about, like, if we have home warranty, any problem, that we keep calling, right? And then because some of the policy that they charge you very high premium, I mean the high service call, okay? So $100 or $125, let's say. And then, but you have to find out that problem is really like you need it or you can fix it or not. Because one time there's a little like a blocking, like the drain, like the water not draining down. And then we thought that's something serious. And the plumbing came and he just used one stick and then pulls the snake up and done. That's it. And $100. And then like another time is like for the dryer, it's not moving and caught in. And then the tech came and just moving around a few times, then it's work. Just like you saying. So there's a lot of things that we have to kind of careful, because we have to think it's worthwhile. If something possible, you cannot do it, then you call, then you save the service call and you can get that repair other than.
That's an excellent point, because as a homeowner, you still want to be able to troubleshoot things.
Yeah. But not overall, because if you do some alter, then they come out and say, oh, well, they're not going to.
But if you understand how your house is supposed to work and it's not working properly, you can take some steps to see, to give you an idea what it's.
So we have to learn first.
If it's something that's obvious to you that you can fix quickly, by all means, go ahead and fix it.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, like I said, when
serious about those AC and something you cannot, or electrical, something we cannot touch.
Very much so.
Yeah. So we gotta think of the service call is $125.
Well, and it's all expenses. So if if you don't know how to do something, it might be worthwhile to spend that $125 just for peace of mind to have it.
That's true.
Have it fixed and working too.
Yeah. So that's the point. And I think like we're gonna have more to because I think our time is up for the show tonight. You have anything you want to make a point, and then we can end the show and see them next time.
Well, just that when you're looking at a single family home, if it's a home that you're already living in, you may be able to immediately leverage that equity that you already have to purchase the next home and still retain that first home and turn around and put a tenant in there to continue paying down your mortgage. So it may give you that kind of an opportunity immediately, and don't discount it off the very beginning, but maybe go talk to a lender and see what they can possibly do.
Right.
Because you might have assets that you might have an asset sitting there that can work for you.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So the lender will work with you in any way, for any issue there. That's a great topic. Scott shared with us about investment into a single family home. Even the home that you live in, you move out, buy a new home, then rent that one, or you just buy the single family for rent. All those important facts that he just shared. We thank you, Scott, for giving those information to our audience at VATV. And now we're gonna see you guys next time, and Mr. Scott Barlow will surprise us with some other topic. Right?
Yes.
Bye.
Good night.
Night.
Vì xin cảm ơn sự theo dõi của tất cả quý vị trong những giây phút vừa qua. Chương trình VATV xin kính chào, tạm biệt và xin hẹn gặp lại quý vị vào lần phát hình kỳ tới. Mọi chi tiết về thông tin thương mại và bảo trợ, xin mời quý vị hãy liên lạc về địa chỉ email vaatelevision@gmail.com và số điện thoại là 480 289 9816 480 289 9816, website vaatv.com và vaaznews.com. Xin kính chào, tạm biệt.